All right, hello everybody and welcome. My name is Stuart Chambers. I'm the Operations Director here at MCIM.
And I'm Michael Dongieux. I'm the Chief Architect.
We're very excited for you to join us today for MCIM's webinar, where we're going to talk about simplifying facility management. Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and go over a couple of administrative items. Please feel free to ask us questions throughout the webinar. You can just click on the word balloon over on the right-hand side of your screen. We're happy to receive your questions throughout the demo, and then we're going to have 2 points in which we are answering those questions live. We also prefer emails as well. If we don't have time to get to you today, we will definitely follow up on your questions. So you can always email us at results@mcim24x7.com. That's RESULTS at mcim24x7.com. All right, with those pleasantries out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get started. And again, the topics today are about simplifying facility management. I'm going to go ahead and get poised and turn it over to Michael to get us started.
Perfect. And in fact, Stuart's going to go show us just how easy it is to get started, and then Kieran is going to share more along with CJ. So Stuart, if you're ready, take it away.
All right, all. Let's take the webinar mobile. First on our stop is going to be barcodes. Barcodes, QR codes, both are compatible in MCIM. And what's great about these is you can use them for tagging new assets, doing routine maintenance, as well as all your break fix work. They're very easy to use. You can associate them in about a minute or less. Here's a good example of one on a fire extinguisher. Really easy to use for EH&S inspections, checks like that. But you can also use barcodes and QR codes on spaces, right, in addition to critical assets. Sometimes that's really good for grabbing space temperatures, space checks, site sounds, alarms, things like that. So today we're going to take it outside. We're going to go look at a condenser, and we're going to look at how QR codes can help you quickly pull up the procedures on all the relevant work orders for your condensers. So let's head outside. All right, everybody, here we are outside with our condenser, and we're going to do a quick demo of using the iPad Live to grab a barcode and start your maintenance. So here's an iPad. Again, we work on any device. We use barcodes or QR codes. I'm here in the home environment, and all I have to do is hit scan barcode. That brings up my camera. Give it a quick click, and there we go. Right, there's the asset pulled up inside MCIM on the mobile. Where we're going to head next is back to Michael, who's going to demo how to use work orders as well as barcodes on the mobile and desktop parts of MCIM. So back to you, Michael.
Thanks, Stuart. And now Kieran is going to talk a little bit more about how easy it is to set up barcodes and manage your assets on a mobile device. And then after that, we're going to have CJ join us to highlight MCIM's spare parts module. All right, let's go to you, Kieran.
Thank you, Michael. So, as we can see here, we are now on our mobile device. We are on an asset record page. This is a BAC Series 1500 cooling tower in our demo environment. Across the top here, you will see some of the functions that are enabled on this asset record page. So, maybe we're out in the field scanning barcodes and capturing readings. Well, we can very easily do that. Right from the record page. Maybe we need to do things like update the picture, or maybe this particular asset doesn't have a barcode associated with it yet. So if I click on this icon here in the top right-hand corner, barcode scanner, it's actually going to prompt me to register a barcode because there isn't one associated. When I click on this, it's going to open up the camera, and when it finds that barcode, it's going to associate that barcode now to cooling tower 18. Something important to note here is you cannot have multiple assets tied to a single barcode. MCIM prevents that from happening and retains that one-to-one relationship. That's just one of the many ways that we're helping you keep your data clean. If we look at the rest of the page here, we have, the full asset lifecycle history when it comes to the monitoring points that we're capturing. So whether you have a BMS or a DSIM, or your technicians are capturing readings during rounds, we can plot all of those over time. And with those readings, we can set certain maximum and minimum thresholds. And if a reading comes in out of spec, MCIM will automatically create that work order and dispatch it out to a technician. So if I click this drop down here, you can see the different readings that we're capturing for cooling towers. I'll note that the red line going across the middle here is the maximum threshold for fan speed. And you can tell this is our demo environment because we've been capturing a lot of data points above that maximum threshold, automatically creating that work order. If we come to this related tab here, we're going to get the entire life cycle history of the asset when it comes to the work orders that it's been a part of, both the preventative maintenance and the problem tickets, any of the change requests, so those critical work efforts that may involve some type of isolation switch tagging procedures, any of the incidents it's been involved with. So if we click on this, we'll be able to see, okay, as a part of this incident, was this cooling tower the bad actor, which affected some dependencies downstream? Is this cooling tower a victim, or was this cooling tower at any point a savior? Was this cooling tower kicking in to prevent downtime and helping sustain some assets that were downstream? We can take a look at some of the nameplate information here. And one thing that's important to note is how clean the data is. At MCIM, we truly believe in clean data and we believe that it transforms your business. If you look at the manufacturer model here, you're going to notice it looks like a link. This is actually the parent model. This is one of the ways that we're keeping that data clean, right? So all BAC Series 1500 will have this same naming sequence. So there's no confusion and no bad data. We have an image. We have some of the infrastructure lifespan data, some of the book value cost, and we're using this to build into the asset depreciation schedules for capital planning. And then we also have file attachments. So whether there's a flash report that comes out, maybe there's an OEM manual you need to attach. Well, the best part about the file attachment process within MCIM is you only have to do it in one place. You can actually do it at the parent model level, and it'll syndicate down to all of the models that are of the same series and classification. All right, so I wanted to come back into this related work orders tab here. So we're going to see a number of different work orders ranging from preventative maintenance to problem tickets. So I want to come into 3850 here. This is a problem ticket. So when I click on this, we're going to be able to immediately identify where this came from. If we look at the description here, we're going to see that we had a fan speed come in at 0.97 when our maximum threshold is 0.9. So this work order was automatically generated. It was given a not to exceed threshold of $100. And so we can come up to the top here, and if this work order has yet to be worked, we can claim it, and then we can check in. And this is going to load the geofence around the site. If I am within this geofence, I can check in and start my time card. What's nice about this feature is if you leave this geofence, it will automatically check you out and end your time card. Click checkout. We also have the more traditional method. We can come in here to time cards. We can click add time, and then we can make any notes about this particular work effort. At the top here, once we were done with this work, we could close out the work order or we could update it. Let's say maybe there was an NTE, we need to submit an invoice because we expected the labor or maybe some of the parts and materials to go over that. We can do all of that here from the mobile device. Something I want to jump to though is these extra functions here that have been turned on in this particular work order. So if it's part of your policy that once the work order is complete to log readings, we can very easily do that because this is tied to that cooling tower. We know the exact readings that we need to capture, right? So it's going to be the same ones that were on the asset record page. A lot of interconnected and interplay within the MCIM ecosystem. Our second tab here is spare parts. CJ is going to touch on spare parts for us here in just a little bit, so I'll leave that for him. And this here, this tags and resolution codes, This is probably one of my favorite features about MCIM. We're able to get users to define things the same way, even if they don't know each other. Maybe they're not even at the same site. Maybe they're even in two different countries, right? Maybe one group is in EMEA and one group is here in the Americas. So I'm going to click X on this worn out coupling here because there's already a failure tag associated to it. But I'm going to show you exactly how we're getting users to define things the same way. When I click into this uh, text box here, the first thing it's going to do is nudge me with those top failure codes for cooling towers, right? So immediately I have access to what would be one of the more probable failure codes that I would need to use. Well, let's say I don't see the failure code I need. Well, very easily, I can come into the text box and let's say I'm looking for something associated to a coupling. I can type COU and immediately it's found a failure code that's been used before, worn out coupling that may be relevant to this cooling tower. So I can click this failure code, and at this point, since it wasn't a syndicated failure code, it goes to the failure tag manager, where an admin can approve this code or an admin can reclassify that code to the appropriate value. This is just another way that MCIM is helping you really keep that data clean. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. But at this point, I think I've used all of my time. So I'm going to pass it to CJ for our spare parts demonstration. Thanks all.
Thanks, Kieran. Hi, everyone. I'm CJ, and I'm going to take you on a quick tour of MCIM's spare parts module. So as you can see on screen, I'm looking at our spare parts inventory, where I get a top-down view of all the parts at my site or across other sites in the portfolio. This is useful if I ever need to find parts nearby that I might not have in stock. With longer supply chains on certain critical spares, it can be really valuable to know what your sites in your area have available should the need arise. Additionally, while I'm just here looking at my site, I have the ability to quickly search, filter, and sort my parts to better understand my total inventory counts. I can filter by classification, manufacturer, and even location at my site quickly, as well as any other custom attributes that you're tracking on your parts themselves. Additionally, with these card views, I can open them up and take certain quick actions directly in the inventory screen, such as logging replenishment when it's time to order more parts, usage of parts when we're conducting maintenance, and reconciliation of parts when counts are off from the inventory when you do a routine audit. Additionally, there are more details over here on the second tab that give me all of the fine-grained information about location, shelf and bin, potentially unit cost, as well as other information such as the replenishment quantity. A quick note on replenishment quantity is that we configure this in MCIM to notify your inventory managers when items are running low. For example, right now we have 20 of this particular fan belt in stock, and after we've used 10, we'll be down to our replenishment quantity, and MCIM will automatically generate an email, mobile push notification, or even issue a work order when it's time to order more. Under quantity adjustment, I do want to show really quickly that when we replenish our parts, we have the ability to not only enter the quantity that we're replenishing, but we can also track status of these part orders in case you're preparing orders that have yet to be placed and they're pending. Tracking numbers are granted by the shipper, your order is shipped, and then completed, so we know when the parts are actually on site and available. We can list our supplier so that we have the price per unit by supplier over time being tracked in the background, as well as the tracking number to make sure that we're keeping an eye on when things are arriving. I can also perform part usage within MCIM. So we'll say I'm going to use one of my fan belts while I'm executing work order 4505. This is a convenient item when your view is of the inventory, but the same capability of using parts while executing work in the field on your mobile device is still available through MCIM's work order module. And then our final type of quantity adjustment is to reconcile parts. This is for when your counts just get off. Maybe you're doing a monthly inventory audit, you see we have 22 fan belts in the system, but we counted on the shelf there were only 20. So we can just add our new number, click submit, and then our fan belt quantity is adjusted as needed. One other thing that's noteworthy about the spare parts module in MCIM is that it's also fully mobily optimized, both as the inventory management tool as well as the way that our parts module ties into our CMMS functionality to make sure that your users in the field have the right information in front of them and are able to quickly log the usage of parts and remove them from inventory as they're being used while executing maintenance. When I'm here on the mobile device, you can see I have all of the same actions available to me, and if I need to, I can jump directly to the spare part itself and perform those same updates right here on the mobile device. This is useful because a lot of users like to barcode their assets and parts within the system. So you can quickly scan the barcode of the part in question, navigate to the details page directly, and make your updates as needed. Say I'm doing my, again, monthly inventory audit. I've scanned my barcode. Now I can quickly count and reconcile my quantity down to the true count of 15, submit that to the system, and the updates are done. This was spare parts. I'm going to kick it back over to Michael and Stuart for a little bit more of a Q&A session. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Kieran and CJ. That was a great demo. We're going to be doing more of a demo in just a bit in the latter half of the webinar, but first, we're going to answer some questions that came in. Always as a quick reminder, submit your questions to the text bubble and we will get back to you now or after the webinar. So let's see our first questions. First up, looks like we have a couple around barcodes. How do I get the barcodes and can I really use QR and barcodes? So the answer to the second question there is yes. You can use both barcodes or QR codes, both work with MCIM. And in terms of getting the barcodes, we have some recommended printers that you can buy off the shelf. We've also got some recommended vendors. The short version here is you can use any vendor and any barcode or QR code, and they're relatively inexpensive. All right, Michael, you want to take this one?
Certainly, yeah. So, all right, we have a new question. Do you have pre-programmed best practices for what rounds points and failure codes apply to different types of assets? That's a great question. We do, and we call this master data in MCIM. And effectively what we're doing is we're pre-programming maintenance templates. We're pre-programming the ways in which certain types of equipment fail. And we are pre-programming the types of performance characteristics, i.e. rounds, as we call them, into MCIM. So when you get your MCIM system out of the box, every asset classification in the system, and there are many of them, will come pre-programmed with all of those standardized templates, so that as you start to populate those across your assets, you can be sure that everybody's doing things in the same way and that your reporting and analytics is going to get the full benefit of that being standardized across a single site or across your entire portfolio.
All right, great answer. Looks like up next is question 4. This is a really good one. It's great to see all of these data points, but how do I control what the sites are logging for rounds? Do I have some sort of control so that they're not all logging different things? Short answer to that is yes. Part of the rounds module is the ability to create rounds templates as well as global monitoring points. This way, from a global monitoring points perspective, you can ensure that all sites have access to the same monitoring points for their assets. And then the rounds template lets you customize the sequence in which they log those at each site. That way it's familiar to them, but a really good question, and yes, we can. All right, I think that's all the time we have for questions, everyone. I'm gonna go get ready for the second half. Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Just a reminder, you can use the word bubble in the upper right corner of the screen or email us anytime with any questions at results@mcim24x7.com. And now we'll catch up with Stuart, who's back outside at our air handler. Stuart, over to you.
All right, thanks, Michael. Here we are back outside for the second half of the webinar. And what the second half is all about is digital procedures around your preventative maintenance or your break, fix, or reactive work. You can do this in the field after just scanning the barcode like we did before. Senior supervisors can also monitor the work from their desktop. All of this Michael is going to point out. But the point is, no more needing to use clipboards, no more scanning digital procedures after the work. How does that make you feel, Will?
Great.
All right, Michael, back to you.
Well, I got to tell you, Will's reaction isn't uncommon, that's for sure. And now we're going to go over to Kieran, who's ready to show off how MCIM handles digital execution, version control, and how to help keep your data up to date and clean.
Hey everybody, Welcome back in. We are going to be taking a look at some of the features and functions within the MEPF change management side of MCIM. We're going to be looking at things like version control, bulk import, so digitizing a procedure from an Excel sheet. And then we're going to go on our mobile device and we're going to do some digital execution in the field where we'll see some things like dual custody sign off. On my screen here, this is the version control system within MCIM. This is a fire system isolation procedure. On the left, we have version 5, which is currently in circulation. And on the right, we have version 6 with some proposed changes. Within MCIM, it's very easy to identify where those changes are. We can see in line 6, it's been highlighted, and the exact change there is the address. If we were to submit this for approval, this would then follow our approval processes, and those folks who need to approve this change would receive some type of notification, whether it's an in-app notification or an email to their inbox. Now, once they approve of the change, this can be syndicated down to the implementation scripts that you have already at this particular site. So now let's take this opportunity to talk about how we can digitize our procedures. If I come over to my other tab here, we can see I'm currently in the process of building an implementation script. We can see I have a commencement checklist in here. I already have that same fire system isolation switch tagging procedure in here, and these are the currently most approved and up-to-date versions. We have multiple ways to get your procedures into MCIM. One of those is going to be the bulk add feature. So if I were to pull this over to the screen here, you all probably have seen some procedures that look like this. They exist in Excel. They're not version controlled. They may be local to somebody's device. Well, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to actually get this into MCIM. So all I need to do here is select where I want to start my copy, come down. I'm going to add this to my clipboard. I'm going to come back to the implementation script that I was building. I'm going to click my insertion point, and notice when I did that, these features became available to me. I'm going to use this bulk add function right here. And I can just paste that in. It's going to retain our formatting. And I can come to the end here, and I'm going to come back and grab that picture. We make it so you don't have to save that picture, then go upload it, find it where you saved it on your desktop. We make it as simple as a copy and a paste. And just like that, I have it in MCIM with all of the formatting retained and even the image. From here, I could save this as a template. It would then exist in my template library, and it would then go through a version control process. So this would be version 1. We can also do things like associate certain contacts to be associated with this implementation script, and then we can set them as authorizers, so they may need to sign off on certain steps as they're being completed. So with that said, let's go ahead and switch over to the iPad, and let's do a little digital execution of this in the field. So as you can see on my iPad here, we are looking at the same implementation script. This is 514, the annual PM on the air handlers. In the top left-hand corner here, I have my implement icon. So when I click that, it's going to load the script. It's going to prompt me with a few messages. That's going to say, make sure your tablet is charged. We can see here I have the commencement checklist that starts off our script. We can see across the top, I have a little ribbon that's going to track our progress along the way. And these are denoting the different sections. So we have our commencement checklist here, and then right here is going to be the start of that switch tagging procedure. One of the features I'd really like to highlight here is the dual custody sign-off. So when I click on this sign-off button here on my tablet, it's actually going to require the signatures of Robert May and Mark Smith before they complete this step. Now, typically this is going to be on a more critical step, but I've just set it here at the very beginning of the script so we can see it. So I'll go ahead and sign this for Robert May. If we have things like Apple Pencils, that will work as well. And once we sign it, it will actually remember the signature, so we don't actually have to do this each time. We'll then just be able to click in it and do a digital signature. So we will sign off, and then you can see it automatically moved us to the next step. And then everything below this is grayed out. So we can't continue on until we complete step 2. So here we go, sign off, sign off. There's no dual custody on steps 3 and 4. And notice here, once we completed this step, our icon jumped into the next ribbon, and we are now into the isolation of the fire system here. Across the bottom, we have the contacts involved. We have the checklist, so that's going to be for the annual PM. But we also have this references tab here. When I click in this is actually going to be our EMOP procedures. So God forbid anything goes wrong, we always have these available to us, so we can start executing on these right in the field if we need to. If I click on one of these, we'll notice I have an execute option right here. If I were to execute this EMOP, it would stop the implementation script where we were, and it would walk me through this step by step. In addition to that, you can also have rules set to notify certain people if this is executed. And of course, we never want anything like this to happen, but within MCIM, we make sure that it's a single click away. You'll notice that all throughout MCIM, you're really no more than 2 clicks away from finding what you need. Let's go back here. Let's go back into implement real quickly. And last thing I'd like to show you here is the checklists. So these are going to be the air handlers associated with this particular PM. So once we do the switch tagging and we shut off the fire system, we can then come in here and then we can complete our preventative maintenance on these particular assets right here. And one of the great functions about this being in near real time is if you have somebody in the office, or maybe some critical work efforts are happening late at night, you can actually follow along as the users and the technicians are completing these steps in the field. So if I do a refresh on this page real quick and then go over to the implementation tab we have here, we're going to see where exactly I stopped in the process. So here's the commencement checklist that I finished. And then here's where we actually are currently within the actual procedure. We are still in the fire isolation switch tagging procedure. So those are just a few of the awesome features within the MEPF change management module. If you've got questions, please feel free, drop them in the chat. We'll be happy to answer. Thanks a lot. See you guys.
All right, thank you, Kieran. Great job demoing. I know we've covered a lot today, everyone. That is just scratching the surface of what MCIM can do. So please don't hold back your questions. But now we're going to jump into the second part of the live Q&A and look at some of the submissions that we received. So I'll handle the first one here. The question is, I saw work templates. Does that mean that we can standardize? And that is a great question. Kieran did mention that on the work template button. And what he just demoed was a critical work package or a change request. But the answer is yes. MCIM has a work template library for every site, and that's where you can keep all of your procedure templates, be them a MOP, a SOP, a commissioning SOP. All sites will have their own work template library where all of those live in that version control format. You want to take the second question?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, question number 2. You say we can deploy standard SOPs and MOPs across our portfolio. Do we also have the flexibility to tailor them to specific sites? Great question. So let's think about it like this. We have both global job plans that are going to be coming from ASHRAE, IEEE, NETA, SFG20, great industry guidelines that have been digitized, and they come out of the box with MCIM. They're going to be available for you to use in their native form, but they're also available for you to copy to your site and make your own versions of those. If, say, for example, you need to modify a certain tasking element of those. I will also point out another very important feature here is for the non-global job plans, things that might be, a site-specific fire alarm isolation procedure. Within MCIM, you've got the ability to share best practices. So if you're at site A, you can look at site B or site C and look at their work templates and copy one of those, make your own modifications to it and save it so that it's yours. And that really allows you to share the best practices across sites, learn from your friends in the field who might have already put together some really good procedures. So yeah, all right, looks like we got a related question. Do any of these come out of the box? Yes, absolutely. So all of those global job plans, again, the ASHRAE, the IEEE, the NETA, the SFG20, the ANSI, all of those job plans, they do come out of the box, and that really covers the gamut of all of your maintenance, all of your air handlers, diesel generators, static UPS systems, all of the different types of equipment that we track in MCIM. Those global job plans come out of the box for you, and so you've got all those right at the start. Stuart, you want to take the next one?
Sure. All right. Looks like the last one up is, can I use an Apple Pencil or stylus in MCIM? Really good question. Again, answer is yes. You can use a stylus by Apple or some other versions, and it is very helpful for when you're doing status checks or digital readings as part of one of your steps in a change request. You can just scribble it in, and then it converts that automatically into text format. So it's a great time saver. Great question. All right, everyone, I think that we are getting close to time. That's about all the time we have for today. We really enjoyed presenting to you. Please send in your questions. Again, I'm Stuart Chambers, the Operations Director for MCIM, and you'll be seeing more of me in the future.
And I'm Michael Dongieux, the Chief Architect.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll see you again soon, and thanks for participating. Bye now.
Bye, everybody.